Greetings and welcome back to Room 303 and our Chats with Emily. That's what we are calling our studies of the poetry of Emily Dickinson contained in the Johnson edition. We turned out a poem 223, I Came to Buy a Smile Today. Another poem sent to Sam Boyles. We are in some ways back to poem 119, a poem we've already discussed. Our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at LearnStrong.net. Down that left-hand side, again, Chats with Emily, our playlist. I'm hopeful that you've already been exposed to our set of introductory comments. I'm also hopeful that you've already worked through our preceding 222 poems. We just finished with poem 222, When Katie Walks. Now, in some ways, as we said, we are back to poem 119 and Emily's friendship with Sam Boyles and his mention of the silver mines of Potosi. We are as well back to Emily's language of longing for acceptance and attention. We're also going to pay attention to her economic language here. Now, we've seen this already in a couple of poems. Emily making some observations about the economy of life, and we'll see this here. We're also going to see a mention of the word Jew. Now, we only see it in 3 poems, and this will be one of those. And there will be some question about Emily's views of Jews. Is she anti-Semitic in the way in which she will speak of Jews? It is clear that in all 3 poems where she mentions Jews, they are mentioned alongside economy and money and the like. Obviously, we've commented on her love of Shakespeare, possibly Merchant of Venice, and Shylock is standing behind some observation here. Although it's not really pejorative, we're still going to point it out as we read it. Let's enjoy the poem. I came to buy a smile today, but just a single smile. The smallest one upon your face will suit me just as well. The one that no one else would miss. It shone so very small. I'm pleading at the counter. Sir, could you afford to sell? I've diamonds on my fingers. You know what diamonds are? I've rubies like the evening blood and topaz like the star. 'Twould be a bargain for a Jew. Say, may I have it, sir? Now, this poem is, again, complicated if you don't understand that she's writing it to Sam Boyles. But what makes this poem more interesting is, what does she mean by smile? Notice we'll begin with the economy language right away with, I came to buy a smile today. She'll use this word smile in 44 different poems. But notice, smile here is symbolic of what? Acceptance, we might say. Can I buy a smile is code language for, will you accept what it is that I am offering? And of course, many have argued that more than love, what Emily was really interested in from Sam Boyles was, of course, acceptance to publish her stuff at the Republican, as we've commented in other poems. Notice, I came to buy a smile today, but just a single smile. In other words, I don't want to ask too much. Now, we have commented on the fact that any number of scholars have pointed out that Emily was very demanding of certain folks in her life. She wanted their attention. She would not stop until she got it. And she wanted approval, but she also wanted, obviously, from Sam, the idea of maybe publishing her poetry and the like. Notice, I just want a single smile. And then she uses the word smallest. I told you, and the word small will get used again. 77 different poems, she loves this word. The smallest one upon your face will suit me just as well. Notice the slant of smile and well. The one that no one else would miss. In other words, I'm scrutinizing, I'm looking, right? It shone so very small. And of course, from shone we'll go to diamonds and obviously rubies and topaz, right? It shone so very small. I'm pleading at the counter, sir. Now, her use of the word pleading will obviously take us back to poem 144. You'll remember when she used the word there. 582, we're going to see it, a pleading pageantry. 627, the pleadings of summer. But it'll be 696 that I'm interested in. When we get to 696, we'll come back to this, her use of this word pleading. So, you could make the argument, this is a really important word for Emily. Why? Because it seems as if Emily spends much of her life pleading to be heard. It's one of the reasons that we call our series Chats with Emily. She wants to be understood. 696 runs like this. Their height in heaven comforts not, their glory not to me. 'Twas best imperfect as it was. I'm infinite. I can't see. I'm sorry, I'm finite, I can't see. The house of supposition, the glimmering frontier that skirts the acres of perhaps, to me, shows insecure. We quoted this acres of perhaps a number of times. The wealth I had contented me, back to the economic language. If 'twas a meaner size, then I had counted it until it pleased my narrow eyes. Better than larger values that show, however true, this timid life of evidence keeps pleading, I don't know. This longing, right, to understand. She says, I'm pleading at the counter, sir. Could you afford to sell? Notice the repetition of the word sir here at the end of the poem again. Could you afford to sell? I've diamonds on my fingers. Now, there is a reading of these these stones, and we've seen this already. This idea that really she's talking about what I have to offer, and what is it that she has to offer? Well, the poems, right? And look at poem 224 that follows. I've nothing else to bring you. The you in this poem is also Sam Boyle's. I've diamonds on my fingers. You know what diamonds are? This is an interesting line. Because what exactly is it she's offering? Now, obviously, Emily's not offering literal diamonds. So, what is it that specifically it is that's being offered here? Many have said that she's talking about her poetry as being obviously of some value. But notice she asks rhetorically, do you even know what diamonds are? That is to say, do you even know what fine poetry is? Notice, I've rubies like the evening blood. It's interesting that she would talk about, it makes us think about Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian, doesn't it? Like the evening blood, and topaz like the star, exclamation point. Notice from the rhetorical question, do you even know what rubies are or what diamonds are? Notice she'll say, I've got diamonds, I've got rubies, I've got topaz. In other words, I've got things of value. And then she'll make this reference. I think it's probably a reference to Shylock in Shakespeare's Merchant of Venice. 'Twould be a bargain for a Jew. Now, the only other two times she mentions the word Jew in all of her poetry is in poem 299 and poem 304. And while we won't read them now, you can run them to ground. In all three of these poems, when she mentions the Jew, she is mentioning always something having to do with money or economy. Say, may I have it, sir? Now, of course, the antecedent here is smile. Many would argue that what she's really asking for is some kind of acceptance, possibly of her poetry. Now, when we get to poem 1391, we will come back to this discussion. That poem, the four lines run like this. They might not need me, yet they might. I'll let my heart be just in sight. A smile so small as mine might be precisely their necessity. I find it interesting that her notion of smiling can obviously connect with what is really, I think, the two-way message here, the longing for acceptance of her, or by extension, her poetry. At 2b, there is an interesting playful tone here. Although it isn't almost like a jab. Do you even know what diamonds are? Do you even know what good poetry is? And of course, the economic language we've already talked about. At 3a, we mentioned poem 1391. We mentioned Shakespeare's Merchant of Venice and the possibility of Shylock, and of course, poems 299 and 304. I'll let you study her use of those. Finally, at 3b, how are we going to own a set of lines like this? What was a time that you longed for another's attention, and you either did not get it or you got it and it took a long time to get it? And what was a time that maybe somebody longed for your attention and maybe they kept bugging you about it until you finally gave it? Thank you.